I'd like to call the regular meeting of the zoning administrator for the city of San Clemente to order. I'm Cecilia Gallardo Daly, the Community Development Director serving as the zoning administrator. The first item of business is to receive and file the minutes of the zoning administrator meeting of June 18, 2020. So received and filed. The next item on the agenda is oral and written communication. This is the time on the agenda for members of the audience to address the zoning administrator on any item within the jurisdiction of the zoning administrator that is not on the agenda. Speakers can submit their comments on agenda items to the zoning administrator electronically. I have not received any items or requests to speak under oral and written communication. So we'll move on to the public hearing items. We have 4 public hearing items on the agenda. The first item is a minor conditional use permit, and we will have staff planner David Carrillo provide us with a staff report on this item. Thank you, David.
Hi, good afternoon. You guys hear me well?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. So the project is located at 910 South El Camino Real, Suite 101 in the Neighborhood Commercial 2 zone. The applicant proposes an accessory massage service in conjunction with primary day spa services in a suite within a multi-tenant medical office building. Primary day spa services include skincare, waxing, therapeutic body treatments, meditation, mobility and stretching exercises, and retail health products. The proposed hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. by appointment only. Some background, the definition of an accessory massage establishment is an establishment that provides massage services that are incidental to the primary business, where the owner of the primary business is responsible for the massage services and conduct of the massage technicians employed at the location. So staff, to determine if a massage use is incidental to a primary use, staff has considered the percentage of floor area that's allocated to the massage use within the suite, and also considered a narrative letter which explains the primary services that were just mentioned a second ago. So this request is before the zoning administrator today because the code requires zoning administrator approval of a minor conditional use permit to allow an accessory massage use in the Neighborhood Commercial 2 zone. So staff's assessment of the request concludes that required findings are met because the space allocated for accessory massage services is 18% of the suite's total floor area, which is 1,000 square feet. Parking requirements are satisfied. The day spa with accessory massage services contributes to the mix of local serving commercial uses that help meet the needs of nearby residents, consistent with the goal for the South El Camino Real, west of Interstate 5 focus area. The request also involves the use of existing commercial space and maintains floor area intensity consistent with the intent of neighborhood commercial zones, which calls for less intense use of land than community or regionally oriented commercial zones. Lastly, the site is suitable for the type and intensity of the proposed use, in that no changes are necessary with regards to parking supply, building footprint, or utility services. Staff did receive questions from the public regarding potential parking impacts that would be derived from the day spa. And staff responded and explained that the use does satisfy parking requirements. There were also some questions regarding the maintenance of a private parking lot and a public alley that is adjacent to the subject project site. And staff did direct the individual to the appropriate divisions to address those questions. And I also do want to add that the applicant did review the conditions of approval and agrees with them. So for reasons stated above, staff recommends that the zoning administrator determine the project is categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15301 and approve the minor conditional use permit subject to conditions. And this concludes my presentation.
Thanks, David. Did we receive any other public comments on this item besides the one you mentioned?
No, that was it.
Okay, just the one raising some questions about the parking, which you addressed. Okay, thanks. And then just one clarifying question. The proposed hours of operation for the massage business are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but the municipal code does allow massage uses to operate between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. So if the proposed minor conditional use permit is approved, the applicant could operate within the hours allowed by the zoning ordinance without having to amend the minor conditional use permit. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Well, I have reviewed the staff report and the findings, the conditions of approval, and have been to the site. I can make the findings for the minor conditional use permit. The massage use proposed is incidental to the primary use. It is an accessory use to the day spa, as it only occupies 175 square feet within the 1,000-foot suite. And the proposed massage services are similar to the massage establishment that occupied the space previously, and doesn't intensify the parking, and is a land use that is allowed within the neighborhood commercial zone. So I find that the proposed use is permitted within the neighborhood 2 commercial zone and complies with the zoning ordinance and the city's general plan. As I stated, the accessory massage service is ancillary to the primary use, but still contributes to the mix of local serving commercial uses that help meet the needs of the city's residents. The site is suitable for the type and intensity of use. Parking requirements are satisfied. There are no exterior building or site changes that are proposed as part of this request. The use will be located in an existing tenant space that supported a similar use with no intensification of use occurring. The proposed use will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. And the proposed use will comply with, will be required to comply with any special operating facility, attire, sanitation, and licensing requirements of the city's municipal code, along with California Massage Therapy Council requirement certifications for the technician. The proposed use will not negatively impact surrounding land uses. The proposed day spa with accessory massage services is similar to the previous use that occupied the suite. So it's not an intensification of use or incompatible with surrounding land uses as a conditionally permitted use in the NC2 zone. So with that, I'll determine that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, Class 1 Existing Facilities, and I approve Resolution ZA 20-020, Minor Conditional Use Permit 20-089, the Sea Siren Day Spa Accessory Massage, subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you, David.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on to the next item. This is also a presentation that David will provide for us. This is a minor architectural permit and minor exception permit for 226 West Avenida, Valencia. David, go ahead and give us a staff report on this item.
Thank you. So as mentioned, this one is located at 226 West Avenida, Valencia, within the residential low zone and coastal zone overlay district, and also within the coastal exclusion order area. The applicant proposes a first and second level addition to an existing legal non-conforming single family home, and is also requesting a front yard setback reduction of 1 foot where 20 feet is required, and that is to allow a second level deck at 19 feet from the front property line. The home is non-conforming due to a rear portion of the home located 5 feet 6 inches from the rear property line, where 10 feet is required. So on the first level, the project consists of reconstructing the garage along with 90 square feet of new floor area adjacent to the garage to accommodate a laundry room and stairway to access the new second level. The second level addition would be constructed over the garage and would accommodate a bonus room and a bathroom consisting of a toilet and sink. And 2 decks, one which would be built to the reduced front yard setback. Some more background here. So the zoning administrator approval of a minor exception permit is required to allow a front yard setback reduction of no more than 15%. And approval of a minor architectural permit is required to allow a floor area expansion of less than 50% of a legal non-conforming home's gross floor area. So in reviewing the front yard setback reduction for the second level deck, staff did find that the average front yard setback for habitable spaces in the neighborhood is 19 feet, and that multiple residences in the neighborhood consist of front second level decks with solid or transparent railings at the fronts. In order to maintain neighborhood character, a condition has been added which will only allow the development of decks with open railing to be built up to the reduced front yard setback. Regarding the floor area addition, floor area may be added to non-conforming residences when the addition is less than 50% of the home's floor area, counting additions done on or after March 21st, 1996. And floor area can also be added when less than 50% of exterior walls are removed or altered. So the applicant has designed the project to stay below these thresholds. Since the project is in the coastal exclusion order area, a coastal development permit is not required. However, staff did still review the project against the city's coastal land use plan and determined that it is consistent with these policies. The project meets required findings for approval because the residential use of the property will continue as intended by the residential low zone, and the setback exception does not significantly alter the neighborhood street scene. The setback exception maintains neighborhood compatibility and street appeal since the property is subject to landscape requirements that maintain a buffer between the public right-of-way and the primary structure, consistent with neighboring properties. The project complies with all development standards, including height limits, setbacks, lot coverage, and landscaping requirements, with the exception of the second level deck built to the reduced front yard setback. The project features high quality design and materials compatible with the existing residence's architecture. And lastly, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the project is required to meet the California Building Code and Orange County Fire Authority regulations. Therefore, staff recommends that the zoning administrator determine the project is categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15301 and 15305, and approve the project subject to conditions. And the applicant, again, did review the conditions of approval and agrees with them. And this concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you, David. Have we received any public comments on this item?
We have not.
No comments received. Okay, great, thank you. Well, I don't have any follow-up questions for you. I have reviewed the staff report and the findings and the conditions of approval and reviewed the plans. I am able to make the findings for the minor architectural permit to allow a floor area expansion of less than 50% of a legal non-conforming home's gross floor area. And with respect to the minor exception permit, I am able to make the findings for the minor exception permit. The requested minor exception will not interfere with the purpose of the zone. The use of the property will still be single-family residential. The neighboring properties will not be adversely affected as a result of the approval of the minor exception permit. The exception is requested to accommodate a second level deck with open railings that limits building mass impacts to the neighborhood. The setback exception would not significantly alter the neighborhood street view and would not be incompatible with the character of the neighborhood. There are neighboring properties in the same zone that have exceptions for the construction of second floor decks built to the reduced front yard setback. The approval of the minor exception permit will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the general public. The single-family home meets all of the development standards with the exception of the proposed second-level deck. And prior to the issuance of building permits, the project will be required to meet the requirements of the building code and the Orange County Fire Authority regulations. So with that, I determined that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA, pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, Class 1, Existing Facilities, and Section 15305, Class 5, Minor Alterations in Land Use Limitations. And I approve Resolution ZA 20-021, Minor Architectural Permit 20-063, and Minor Exception Permit 20-064, the Baker Addition, subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next public hearing item. We have a minor exception permit and a staff waiver of a minor architectural permit for the Smith residence located at 722 Camino de los Mares. And we have our staff planner, Katie Crockett, to provide us with a report.
Hi, good afternoon. This project is a request for a minor exception permit and staff waiver of a minor architectural permit for a 383 square foot single story addition to an existing non-conforming residence at 722 Camino de los Mares. The house is non-conforming due to the side setback on both sides, which is 5 feet where 6 is required. The application also requests to maintain the 5-foot setback for the addition on the south side. The property is in the low-density residential zone and the special residential overlay 13, which mandates the 6-foot side setback. This portion of Camino de los Mares is located between the Shore Cliffs Golf Course to the east and Sea Point Estates open space slope to the west. Most of the properties on this section of Camino de los Mares are single-story residences with similar scale and massing to the subject residence, and many have 5-foot setbacks since they were constructed in the 1970s when 5 feet was permitted. The city has granted similar additions in this area to maintain the non-conforming side yard setback, such as 834 and 862 Camino de los Mares. The residence will have a modern architectural design, different than most of the homes in the vicinity. This project is not in an area where any particular architectural design is required. And because the scale, massing, setbacks, and materials such as stucco and wood siding are consistent with the other residences in the vicinity, staff believes the project is compatible with adjacent residences. Since the addition is under 500 square feet and it doesn't increase the height of the structure, the project is eligible for a staff waiver of the minor architectural permit required for additions to non-conforming properties. However, it is processed concurrently with the minor exception permit, which San Clemente Municipal Code Section 17.16.090 allows the zoning administrator to grant for the continuation of a legal non-conforming side setback up to 30 inches from property line. This request is 5 feet from property line. No public comment has been received on this item. I have spoken with the applicant and he has reviewed the conditions of approval. Staff believes the findings for approval of the MEP and MAP can be made. The project addition does not change the use or density of the project and maintains consistency with other residences in the vicinity with regard to size, scale, massing, setbacks, and materials. Other similar exceptions have been granted for additions to properties in the immediate vicinity. And the entire exterior of the home will be remodeled to reflect the modern architectural style to ensure consistent architectural treatment throughout the structure. Therefore, staff recommends adopting Resolution ZA 20-019, subject to the conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Katie. I don't have any follow-up questions. Thank you for the staff report. The information in the report and the drawings were all very clear. I have reviewed the report, the findings and the conditions of approval, and reviewed the plans for the project. I am able to make the findings for the staff waiver of the minor architectural permit. And with respect to the minor exception permit, I am able to make those findings as well. The approval of the minor exception permit will not interfere with the purpose of the zone or the standards of the zone. The proposed addition doesn't change the use or density of the property. There is an existing 5-foot setback on both sides of the property, and while the exception would reduce the setback per the zone, the 5-foot is existing, so I don't see that as altering the use of the property or the zone. Neighboring properties will not be adversely affected as a result of the approval of the minor exception permit. As I stated, the existing home is already built to the 5-foot setback on both sides of the property line. Most of the residences within this tract have similar setbacks since they were permitted and constructed in the 1970s when the development standards allowed the 5-foot setback. And as Katie mentioned, similar additions encroaching into the side yard setback up to 5 feet have been permitted. The approval of the minor exception permit will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the general public. The building plans will be reviewed by the building division for compliance with all current codes. So with that, I determined that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, Class 1, Existing Facilities, and I approve Resolution ZA 20-019, the minor exception permit 20-142, and the staff waiver 20-143, the Smith addition, subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Okay. The next public hearing item is a minor conditional use permit for the Left Coast Tasting Room located at 1245 Puerta del Sol, and we'll have our staff planner Kyle Weber give us a report on this one.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So Left Coast Brewing is requesting a minor conditional use permit for the sale of beer at an existing building in the business park of the Talegas Specific Plan area at address 1245 Puerta del Sol. The site is zoned light industrial. Left Coast Brewing is an existing business in San Clemente, which ran a tasting room at 1251 Puerta del Sol up until April of this year. The owners are requesting to establish a new indoor-only seating establishment nearby in a multi-tenant building where they will occupy a unit that is 1,891 square feet in size, 707 square feet of which is a standalone tasting room, which will have 44 indoor seats for guests. Other tenants on site are businesses occupying warehouse and office space. The project site is surrounded by other commercial properties and light industrial land uses as well. At the new location, the business will sell beer for on and off-site consumption in the evening hours between 12 and 10 p.m., closing earlier on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Sundays. The business will not be producing beer on-site. For the proposed use, the Talegas Specific Plan requires Left Coast Brewing to secure 1 parking space per 120 square feet of gross floor area, or 16 spaces. The site currently has 19 parking spaces available for the use that occupies the subject unit, so therefore the lot will have a surplus of 3 on-site parking stalls. A standalone tasting room is permitted in the Talegas Specific Plan with the approval of an MCUP, and staff believes the project meets the required findings and the use is suitable for the surrounding area and will not negatively impact neighboring properties. A condition of approval was added to the resolution to effectively terminate the existing MCUP at the business's previous location. This is to prevent the saturation of similar types of uses in the area. The applicant agrees with this condition of approval and also agrees with the other conditions of approval outlined in the resolution. With that, staff recommends the zoning administrator adopts resolution 20-018 for Left Coast Tasting Room, MCUP 20-047. As of today, staff has not received any written public comment, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Kyle. I just have some clarifying questions about the permitted use. The staff report on page 2, under proposed use, the second bullet states that the Talega specific plan states that the sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption on the premises for lot zone light industrial is allowed conditionally if incidental to a principal or conditional use. And then the findings on page 5 of the report, it's the minor conditional use permit finding A2 says that the proposed sale of beer for on-site consumption is ancillary to a primary manufacturing use and is permitted in the light industrial land use designation pursuant to the approval of the MCUP. However, in the staff report, page 3, under required findings, the first bullet is the standalone tasting room use is permitted with the approval of an MCUP in the subject zoning district as a restaurant serving beer pursuant to the interpretation 19-149. And then you stated in your staff report that the standalone tasting room is allowed in the specific plan. So I'm trying to reconcile these two things which seem opposing, in that the Talega specific plan allows the sale of alcoholic beverages as long as it's incidental to a principal or conditional use, and then that this is a standalone use. So could you explain that to me?
Sure. So in the Talega specific plan, you're correct. These are all connected. So the Left Coast Brewing has a manufacturing site where they produce beer, and that is located in the Talega specific plan as a manufacturing use in light industrial. And so when it says, excuse me, I need to scroll up. So when it says,
So is that the property at 1251?
so it's at the property of 1245, but not in the same space that they are proposing to have the standalone tasting room. At 1251, they are not proposing to conduct any business in there whatsoever. And so it is auxiliary to the brewing, the actual manufacturing brewing.
Okay, so there is manufacturing occurring at 1245.
Correct, but not in the same unit space.
Yes.
But in the same zone and in the same specific plan area, right?
Got it. Okay. So that's how we can state that it's consistent with the Talega specific plan because it is incidental to a principal use, but also consistent in that minor conditional use permits allow standalone tasting rooms as well.
That was the intent of the report, to express that.
Okay, to address the sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption on the premises and a standalone tasting room.
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you. And have we received any public comments on this project?
No public comments have been received.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so I have reviewed the staff report and the conditions of approval, the findings, and the proposed plans for the facility. Kyle, just actually one more follow-up question. On the plans
Sure.
for the facility, for 1245, that portion of the plans, like for example, I'm looking at page A3, where it says not in scope and it's hashed out. Is that where the manufacturing occurs?
So that's warehouse space, and I am not actually certain about that. I'm just told that it was warehouse space. I'm not positive if that is the actual brewing or manufacturing area. I can't speak to that for certain. Let's find out.
Where is the manufacturing occurring?
So it's on site at 1245, and I would not like to say for certain that I know that that is the unit, though that would be my best guess, but I don't know for certain.
Okay. I'm looking at page 12 of the staff report. It's attachment 2. And it's the sort of satellite image that shows the subject property and then the surrounding properties. So then when I look at the plans where it says existing building 8, the proposed tasting area is a portion of existing building 8. And I'm just wondering where the rest of the business operations are occurring.
Where the rest of the building is, or where the rest of the Left Coast Brewing operations are?
Where the Left Coast Brewing operations are occurring.
Yeah. Cecilia, I am trying to find some information on that, but again, I can't speak certainly. But I am trying to find information in the report that might help me answer that question.
Okay. All right. Why don't we take a quick 10-minute break and let you do some research on that, and then we'll come back, okay?
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
if you're available, I'm ready whenever you are.
We were on item 4D under public hearings. It's a minor conditional use permit for Left Coast Tasting Room. And Kyle, you were just following up on some questions I had regarding the principal use on the property and where it was located.
Yeah, so the principal use is located at the same building, 1245 Marcus del Sol, on page A3 of the development plan, the area that's hashed not in scope, that is the manufacturing area.
Okay, all right, great. That's terrific. Okay, that's all I needed to confirm. Thank you very much for looking into that information.
Thank
All
you.
right, so with that, I am able to make the findings for the minor conditional use permit. The proposed minor conditional use permit complies with the provisions of the San Clemente Municipal Code, the Talega Specific Plan, and the city's general plan. The purpose and intent of the light industrial zone is to serve a mixture of business park, research and development, professional office, and light industrial uses. And the proposed use is a blend of manufacturing and supportive commercial. The proposed sale of beer and wine for on-site consumption is ancillary to a primary manufacturing use on the property. Although the proposed use does result in a slight intensification from the current use with regard to parking, there is a surplus of parking on the property, and the proposed tasting room is consistent with other allowed uses in the Talega specific plan. The site is suitable for the type and intensity of use proposed. The project isn't in proximity to a residential zone, and the building does have a surplus of parking to accommodate the proposed use. The tasting room will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. The proposed use will be required to comply with the fire code, the building code, and the alcoholic beverage control licensing requirements. The proposed use will not negatively impact surrounding land uses. It is consistent with surrounding land uses, and as mentioned, the site does not abut residential property and has plenty of parking to accommodate the proposed use. So with that, it's great to see that this business is going to be staying in the business park with an expansion of the operations, which are proving to be successful, which is what we want to see for businesses in the city. So with that, I will determine that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, Class 1, Existing Facilities, and adopt Resolution ZA 20-018, approving the minor conditional use permit 20047 for the Left Coast Brewery Tasting Room, subject to conditions of approval. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the public hearing items on the agenda. And we will move on to the next item of business, which is new business. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is old business. Seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting of the zoning administrator that will be held on Thursday, August 20th, 2020 at 3 p.m. Thank you very much.